From the golden fields of Saturday glory, strap on the helmet and into the huddle. It's Mr. Gridiron.
Yes, in coverage, I'm playing press. You can text, but if it ain't looking right, I'm swiping left. Next.
Boy, don't hate the player, hate the game now. Killing it just won't be the same now. Boy, I'm balling hard in the pain now. Boy, I'm balling hard in the pain now. Boy, don't hate the player, hate the game now. Killing it just won't be the same now. Boy, I'm balling hard in the pain now. Boy, I'm balling hard in the pain now.
What is up, everybody? This is Thomas Christopher, Mr. Gridiron of the League Winners. We are here once again for another episode of Mr. Gridiron. We're at episode 11. Time's been going by fast. As you can see, once again, I'm not in the studio. For those, I did have some, AC problems. There's stuff going on there. We should be back there next week. I appreciate everybody's patience on that end because I know the lighting and stuff like that for those watching on the video side of things isn't necessarily great. So I appreciate the patience on that end. With that being said, if you guys are watching this episode, please make sure to click that like button. It's completely free to do so. If you're watching on X/Twitter, click that retweet button as well. Really helps us out. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure to share it. Your friends and family like college football, they will love this show. And if you're watching on YouTube, click that subscribe button. We'll have plenty of college football content, high school recruiting content, and draft content year round. With that being said, you can find this show on anywhere you find your favorite shows and podcasts. That is on Apple, iTunes Music. You can find it on Spotify, Amazon, and on iHeartRadio. With that said, we have a great show today. We'll be talking some interesting stuff with Texas Tech in Texas. We have our eye opener of the week. We also have our film room flash that'll be highlighting Luke Ferrelli now with the Ole Miss Rebels. Kind of get into a little bit about the background on him as well before we do that. But with that being said, before we do all of that, we're going to get into our morning huddle.
Put the ball. Let's go, family on 3. 1, 2, 3, family.
1, 2, 3, family. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I like hearing that. With that being said, this week's morning huddle, Senators Maria Cantwell and Ted Cruz have reached an agreement on comprehensive bill that would grant the NCAA antitrust exemption. Excuse me. Related to athlete transfers, eligibility, and the salary cap. This is something that the NCAA has been consistently trying to do. They've been pushing for it for a while. The bill, named Protect College Sports Act, precludes the creation of a so-called Super League, which is very interesting and fascinating because we've been talking about that a lot. Creates an agent registry limiting fees to 5%, which is massive considering, for those who aren't aware, NIL agents and college football agents usually take a lot higher of a percentage than NFL agents do, and they kind of take advantage of some kids. It permits the pooling of media rights, which I also think could be very good. And then it bars coaches from leaving their team before the season ends, aka the Lane Kiffin rule. Whether or not the Lane Kiffin rule works out, considering the way that college sports is with recruiting and in the transfer portal, that'll be interesting to see how that develops. But with that being said, the act has been, it's been agreed upon by the two senators from opposing sides. So we'll just see how this continues to develop going forward. Steve Sarkisian proposes a 4-team SEC mini playoff, which is, I guess, in other words, for a participation trophy. But we'll see how that works out. Sarkisian has also been notably not a fan of the 24-team playoff. He also notably took shots at a Big 12 opponent, which we'll talk about later in the show. Speaking of Big 12 coaches have begun unanimously in favor of a 24-team playoff. We talked about the ACC doing the same thing and the Big 10. Basically, all we're waiting for now is the SEC to essentially push this forward. With that being said, that's been our morning huddle. We have something interesting that's going to be a part of that, but that's going to be part of our big segment, so we'll talk that next.
Put the ball. Let's go, family on 3. 1, 2, 3, family.
Hope you guys enjoyed the Morning Huddle. While you're watching this video, please, once again, make sure to click that like button. It's completely free to do so, and it helps the channel out spectacularly and greatly. So I'd appreciate that. The other part of the news and what goes into the main portion of today's episode, the main focal point of today's episode is Texas Tech head coach. Now, for anybody who's been unaware, Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian has not been shy about his thoughts on the Big 12 and Texas Tech. He most notably took a shot at Texas Tech, stating another team within the state, has a chance to – they would lose to Texas's second and third string team. He thinks Texas's second and third string team would be able to win the Big 12, which I already talked about how ludicrous that is. But he's also called out – the Texas Tech Red Raiders basically in the process by doing that, which I thought is fascinating. It's just showing this increased rivalry that's continuing to happen. And safe to say, Texas Tech is not only up for the challenge, but wanting and willingly able to do so, because Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire and Cody Campbell, who's the chairman of the Board of Regents for Texas Tech University, have offered to pay the buyout for ACU and Texas State so that they could play the University of Texas, the Texas Longhorns in week 1, which, by the way, that would be a doozy. If we're talking about, that would change a lot of things too. If we start seeing universities buy out their opponents to have some of these massive matchups, and obviously they're no longer in the same conference, Texas in the SEC and Texas Tech in the Big 12, which ironically might be the reason that this doesn't happen, is because I don't think Texas wants to risk taking a loss to a Big 12 team, a conference that Steve Sarkisian is saying that he doesn't believe is as strong of a conference as the SEC, and losing to them would really put a detriment not in just their SEC championship hopes, but potentially, their shot within the college football playoff. We've already saw them miss out this past year, and a couple of players spoke pretty openly about their disdain for that happening. Losing to a team like Texas Tech, if they bought out ACU and Texas State so that these two could meet week 1, while it would be absolute fireworks, just the media coverage going into a week 1 game between Texas Tech and Texas would be insane at this point, especially with the comments that Sarkisian's giving. Then we have Joey McGuire and the rest of Texas Tech's administration and staff starting to chirp back. They're not backing down, which, by the way, I absolutely love. But there is one thing that's and actually I love the brashness of it from Texas Tech, because there's this one thing that we've talked about. Actually, our first episode was built around it, and that was Brendan Sorsby, and he has been denied eligibility. So Texas Tech is kind of in a, it becomes interesting, because I think Wilhelm is going to be the guy who ends up taking over for Texas Tech, and if he's healthy, which hopefully he's healthy by August, by the start of the season. Reports have been that it's like a 50-50. And then they do have a Tulsa transfer. I'm blanking on his name right now, so I apologize. But he would be the guy to kind of step in, at least at the beginning of the year. Is that a reason why Texas wouldn't do it? Now, let's talk about the logistics of that. It would be amazing. But because there's a potential loss factor for Texas there, do they want to take that risk? Especially, with Sorsby no longer being the guy, you're going to kind of be losing to, I don't want to say a no-name, because, these kids have performed well. Obviously, they're at a power conference team for a reason, but does Texas want to take a chance losing to like a Wilhelm, or the kid who transferred over from Tulsa? Is that something that Texas wants to do week 1, and then they lose that game, and now they're already behind the 8 ball in terms of how the SEC is? Now, there's a reason why we're seeing Steve Sarkisian propose a 4-team SEC mini playoff, because they couldn't get into the playoffs last year. And I'll be completely upfront. I was a proponent that I thought Texas should have gotten in over Bama. Personally, that's going to be unpopular, but I was very much of the belief that I thought Texas should have gotten in. However, it's kind of a joke when you're talking a 4-team mini playoff in the SEC. Like, get to the conference championship game. If you're a good enough team, you should be able to get in the conference championship game. And if you're not, that's kind of on you, right? All you have to do is win the games that's in front of you. The scheduling happens years in advance, and usually there's very few changes that happen. Like sometimes we'll see a game or two get moved or canceled or bought out or things of that nature. But for the most part, the opponents are fairly set in stone in advance, right? But they have the opportunity to build up a schedule. They also have the opportunity to really just win the games in front of them, So would Texas take this, handout, I guess we'll say, from Texas Tech? Probably not. But with that being said, it's something that I think Texas should really do. If I'm being honest, I would love to see Texas and Texas Tech kind of have a bigger rivalry, right? Because if we're being honest, right, it's been incredibly one-sided up to this point. I mean, Texas has 18 losses, and they've beaten Texas Tech 54 times in their entire history. What's that? I think that's 72 games. Right. The home record for Texas Tech is 11-22. They're 7-32 on the road. The conference record, obviously, 13-41. And they haven't really done a great job. The last 10 matchups, Texas Tech is only 3-7. They've been averaging about 19 points per game in these matchups. So from the outside looking in, Texas has almost nothing to gain and everything to lose by taking a matchup like this. The last time they played each other was towards the end of the year in 2023, before Texas made that move over. They lost, or Texas ended up beating Tech 57-7. Texas Tech did squeak out a win the prior year in overtime. And then, I mean, this is the thing, Texas Tech's wins have all been extremely close, and the losses have not been as close. With them losing 70-35 in 2021. Those are the last 3 times they played. Last 5 times they played, they lost 2 more times. Texas Tech did 1 in OT and another big stomping 49-24. So, I mean, if we're looking on the outside looking in, for Texas, they have nothing to gain, right? Why look back into the Big 12 when you're in the SEC now? It doesn't necessarily make sense for them to do that. But if I'm Texas Tech, I try as hard as I can to get this game to happen because, you lost Brendan Sorsby, right? The NCAA has denied his eligibility. So you are automatically going into the 2026 season and you're kind of behind the 8 ball, like we said. What are they going to do? Do they go to Hammond? Is he healthy? Is he even healthy enough to play in week 1? Because there's injuries that he's dealing with, and there's questions as to whether or not he will be ready for that summer and fall camps. Now, does that mean that the guy you have from Tulsa, is he ready? And if they're not, then you get embarrassed in week 1 against Texas. You kind of never get the shot again either, right? I mean, for Texas Tech, the way Texas has to look at it, I mean, the Longhorns are just like, hey, why would I go back to the Big 12 when we're in the SEC now? Texas Tech is trying to, especially with the way the NIL is, and we talked about how Texas Tech and Houston's of the world are going to start seeing a lot of, money coming in and that leading to results. I mean, they both have fantastic years, 10-win seasons, if I'm not mistaken, at minimum. Texas Tech is trying to showcase that they're going to be the next big thing in this new age of NIL football, college football. And the way to do that is by setting up these games with like Texas and creating rivalries with teams that are in the SEC or even the Big Ten. But, considering where they're located, the SEC is more prevalent to be there for them. And getting that rivalry with Texas to kind of come back and become a real thing now, considering how much money they are able to put into the football program. It's something that Tech has to consider, and that's why you're seeing McGuire, and that's why you're seeing the chairman of the board for Texas Tech really want to push this going forward. That's why they're offering to buy out ACU and Texas State, both the opponents, so that these two teams can play. Because for Texas Tech, with the way everything is changing in the landscape, a matchup with them against Texas in week 1, considering how much controversy has been going together between them, right? Steve Sarkisian is just, he can't keep Texas Tech out of his mouth, which I think is hilarious. Considering they did move on to the SEC, like you're in the SEC now, why are you still throwing pot shots? If you're going to throw pot shots, you kind of have to take it, right? Like if you're Texas, why would you take it? But at the same time, with the amount that Steve Sarkisian has been talking and the pot shots that he's been throwing, if I'm a fan looking on the outside, I'm looking at this, I'm like, hey, you guys got to put your money where your mouth is now, right? You can't just basically say that your second and third team, your backups, could win the Big 12 and calling out the Red Raiders. And then if, now Texas Tech is offering to buy out the week 1 opponents for not just their week 1 opponent, but Texas's week 1 opponent so that the two can face off in week 1. After all that talk you've been doing, big dog, you got to lay it down and you got to do it, So if I'm a fan of the sport, I think this would be fantastic. Like, I'm a guy who just wants to see good football, right? And if you're not watching good football, you're kind of wasting time. And that's just the way I see it, right? If I'm a fan of either team, I want to see this too. I know maybe Texas fans might just be like, well, hey, why would we want to even bother doing that? We've beaten them. What was it? They've beaten them 54 times. Why would we want to even waste our time watching these guys again? And trust me, I understand that side of things as well. But this would be a fantastic game. Like it would just be fun because you would get to see a team that's on the rise and a team that's already a powerhouse. And no matter what you think about Texas Tech in the past, and I guess that's kind of the good thing why I was always a fan of college sports and college football specifically. I played college football. But the reason why I never consider myself like a serious, like a diehard fan, helps me in this regard. I feel like because I don't have any prior, disdain for another program or, at a pedestal. And I was a huge Texas fan. Like I loved Vince Young growing up. So I would love to see this happen. I remember Texas Tech was awful. Now they're not anymore. And with the way the landscape is continuously changing, and I know we repeat this talking point so often because it needs to kind of be hammered in that the future of college football we're going to see certain teams that you don't necessarily think are powerhouses come through with this money and start generating revenue the way that they need to, right? Utah's getting private equity dumped into that as well. And the Utes are not a bad football program either. It's just another example. Texas Tech has a lot of money getting thrown into it. We talked about Houston, another program in Texas with a lot of money being thrown into it. And the results are starting to speak for themselves. Utah had a great year. Texas Tech had a great year. Houston had a great year. And Houston flew completely under the radar. They had a 10-win season. And nobody's talking about Houston at all, and that's because they're not while they're not there yet in terms of challenging for the Big 12, like they're going to be very soon. And they're one of the sleeping giants team. I mean, to be honest, they're going to be a team that I'm going to be promoting on this show before the start of the season because we have the early riser segments. We have the eye opener segments. They're going to be featured in that at some point. I can promise you that. Just because of how under the radar they've been, how consistent they're becoming. Even when they had Tom Herman there, and Tom Herman kind of helped that program. Now he's fallen off, and not the biggest fan of Herman, or maybe that's not fair. I'm not the biggest fan of Herman's associates because they're pretty shady people. They're not good people. But I don't know Herman enough to one way or the other. I only know experiences from what I've saw, and I haven't heard great things there either. So we'll see. If he ever wants to reach out, feel free to reach out, Tom. You got a good first name. I'll give you a chance. But in terms of Houston, after he built them up, kind of consistent, medium team, middling team. Now they're starting to find their way again, especially with the NIL, like we just talked about, being able to find its, stranglehold, not strangled, be able to find themselves within that program, be able to push money into that program. We're going to see the Big 12, especially where a lot of these teams are located, be able to dump and allocate a lot more money than we've seen in the past. It's just a matter of time. right? Once they're giving a more fair shake, and I guess this probably goes for the ACC too, once these teams kind of get more of a fair shake when it comes to the playoff, and that's why another reason why I think the 2014 playoff is a good idea, we'll start seeing that come to fruition. We'll start seeing some of these schools that can really generate money start to generate a lot more once they're put on a bigger pedestal and once they're putting into a bigger spotlight. And that's why I think, all things considering, going all the way back around, I think it'd be smart if Texas took this game. Now, if you're Texas, you have to win this game, in which without Brendan Sorsby, I think this is a lot more realistic for the Longhorns to do. Arch Manning is there for another year. They've added talent at the receiver positions through the portal. They get the running backs. Texas is in a good spot right now, especially offensively. Manning is, for whatever everyone wants to put, the microscope on him, and obviously so, because he is Arch's son, like an Arch Manning's grandson, right? And the family history and everything. Like he's a great quarterback. He's also probably the most mobile that we've seen since Arch Manning, which could, in today's NFL would be such a dynamic threat. And I think that goes under the radar, right? He's incredibly athletic. Like he's as athletic as his grandfather was. And if you don't know how athletic his grandfather was, you should watch some of the Saints tape on him when he played for the Saints. That being said, Texas is in a great spot with him in that offense. Like I said, they brought in some transfer guys through the portal, especially at the wide receiver spot. They got a lot of talent there offensively. The defense is consistently good. It's not hard to get guys if you're Texas, right? Meanwhile, Texas Tech lost a lot of talent. They lost David Bailey. They lost Jacob Rodriguez. They lost a lot of guys through the draft. And while they brought some guys in who I'm a fan of, even though him is not healthy, I am a fan of him too. I think I'm actually a massive fan of him, and I think he could be really good if he's healthy. However, he's not right now, so we're talking speculation. With that being said, I do think that there's a road where this makes sense, and I really do think that there should be more opportunities and more instances of teams taking on out-of-conference opponents, especially if they're in-state or big rivalry matchups. And I know that this matchup between Tech and Texas has been fairly one-sided in recent years, but at some point that's going to change, and the money's going to be talking, and the money's already starting to talk, right? We're seeing that happen already with the ability of the Red Raiders to grab as many guys, not just through the portal, but through recruiting. Like it's going to continue to get better, right? And honestly, if Morton was a little bit better last year, Texas Tech probably goes a lot deeper in the college football playoff. Nothing against Morton, great kid, but he kind of struggled under the lights there for them last year when they were in a big opportunity and able to get some change going. With that being said, I do think that this is something that they should really take a hard look at, right? Especially if we've talked about Sarkisian's, little jabs to Texas Tech. Now we have, Joey McGuire and Cody Campbell from Texas Tech coming in and instantly responding. I love the sportsmanship. I love the competitiveness. I love rivalries. I think this would be really good for college football. And with the way that the sport is changing, keeping some in-state and turning some in-state rivalries into bigger rivalries, I think would be fantastic for the game of football. I do think that, like I said, it doesn't necessarily make sense for Texas. Probably not, at least not yet. Tech probably has to have another decent winning season, a decent season for them. But with all that being said, you can't ignore where the trajectory is heading towards, just for Texas Tech football. And like I've mentioned, Houston to a lesser extent too. You just can't really ignore it. It's going the way of they're going to be impossible to ignore. because they just have so much money. They have so much money potential to dump into the sport and the football program. And unfortunately, like, as much as I don't think that should be a factor, I think it evens the playing field for certain teams too, like the Texas Techs of the world. Once it opens to where these teams that are in great markets are able to actually put that money into the programs themselves, I think that, is massive for them. And we're going to start seeing some stuff where teams that we didn't necessarily expect to perform well are going to start performing really well in the college football landscape. Tech being one of them, Houston being one of them. Utah is another program that you can expect to really make a jump, going forward. There's a lot of opportunity there. And I'm excited to see it. I'm also a little nervous how the changes are going to be. But with that being said, I think it's something that needs to happen, and we'll see how it happens, right? But with that being said, I hope you guys appreciated that one. Now, if you've watched the show, before we get to the next segments, because this might be a little bit shorter for a Friday show than normal, just because we're not in the studio. Not in the studio. The lighting's bad. I don't want to keep people who are watching the video side of things to, not be able to appreciate that. For the audio people, I guess you kind of luck out on this episode. This past week, you haven't really had to deal with any issues on that end. So maybe that's what people need to start doing. But you also don't get to see it live. You're hearing the recorded version. So who knows? I guess that's a revolving gate. But if you're watching this, please make sure to click that like button. Completely free to do so. Helps the channel out, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X/Twitter. You can find this show wherever you find all your favorite shows and podcasts, whether it's on Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or Apple/iTunes. With that being said, if you do watch this show and you're watching it live, leave a comment. I'll make sure to get to you guys if you have questions, concerns about players, sports, teams, the landscape, anything, feel free to let me know. And if you watch this show after it ends and have a comment, give me about 24, 48 hours, and I'll make sure I'll be able to get back to you guys and gals. With that said, if you do watch this show too, normally we have a segment where we do player interviews, where we highlight players in the college football world, whether it's high school recruits, prospects, college football prospects, or NFL draft prospects. And with the NFL draft this past month happening, this is actually going to be the last episode where we highlight a player who was in the 2026 NFL draft. We want to make sure we can showcase these guys as much as possible. But this is going to be the last episode because it's a month after the draft. A lot of these guys are either heading towards the NFL, the CFL, or they're getting into another profession. If they didn't make it. Thankfully, most of these guys do end up getting a chance and making this, having opportunity to live out their life a bit, following their dreams. Got to be a big fan of that. With that being said, this next interview is going to be one that we had at the Shrine Bowl. He was a California defensive back. He also played for USF. It's Brent Austin, cornerback. He now plays for the Denver Broncos. He was picked up as an undrafted free agent for the Broncos. And I'm going to make sure I can share this screen. If you're watching on the audio-only version, you'll be able to hear this fine without a problem. So let me just make sure I put this in full screen and get myself out of here. And I hope you guys enjoyed the interview that we had with Brent. He's a great kid, fantastic person, and wishing the best for him in Denver. With that being said, hope you guys enjoy this quick interview.
I'm Grant Austin from Cal Berkeley, and I play DB.
We are here at the Shrine Bowl 2026 version of it. Talk about how important it is for you to be here and what it means for your overall football career to culminate in this moment.
It means a lot, to be honest. Coming out of high school, had two offers, group of 5 in the FCS. So, being where I am now with a chip on my shoulder, a lot of people thought I wouldn't be here. I'm just blessed, thank God every day.
Actually, I kind of want to build off that because you have had a unique career going from where you were to a P4 school and now you're at the Shrine Bowl. So can you just talk about how that's been for you, what that journey has been and the adversity you've had to deal with?
Yes, sir. I mean, like I said, coming out of high school with 2 offers, FBS, one of them was school, SCS, going to FBS. So, I mean, it was hard. You got to, sometimes you mentally look down at yourself like, dang, I want to be playing, Power 5. But I kept my head down, kept working. And, I feel like I transferred to USF was a step up, and then I transferred again to a Power 5. And I was like so excited and like just kept my head down, kept working, prayed on it, and yeah, it's been a long journey. Yeah.
Kind of tying into that, whether it's been at James Madison, whether it's been at USF, whether it's been at Cal, you have dominated in coverage and you have grown every area of your game from the start of that season until the end of it. Kind of talk about how that progression has worked for you and what you feel like the biggest thing you've been able to grow as a player over the course of those 4 years.
I would say like as time went on, like I was growing as a person as well and mentally. The first 2 years, couple years, I'm just like, okay, cover one, just my man. Now I'm just on my man. Now as I start getting older, I'm looking at the tight end gonna motion across. What happens if this guy motion across? What formation is this? So like, where's this split at? So looking at things like that, I've grown as a player to be more physical. I learned like the corner you got to tackle. You see sometimes like all corners don't like that. No, I like to tackle. I like to be physical. That's part of my game. So looking at little things like that is growing from mistakes. I feel like if you make at the corner, you can't make the same mistake twice. Or just having that confidence too. Like you're gonna get beat sometimes. You play corner, like I play, press man. I'm gonna get beat sometimes, but how you respond? And I feel like every time I've had to step back, I step forward a couple steps.
Yeah, and Cal has kind of been known for being DBU now recently, right? A lot of players have found themselves from the back end, finding themselves into the NFL now. What was it like, playing under Coach Wilcox, and just how was your experience with Cal?
Oh yeah, Cal. That's the main reason I actually chose Cal, because like 3 DB drafted and just last year's draft alone. Coach Wilcox is a great coach, great person. He's the main person that came up to me like you need you have all of the tools and abilities, like just play with confidence, and you can see that turned on. I don't know what game it was, but since then like it just turned on, and my coaches too, like it's a standard in there. Like you said, like yeah, like Noah Williams, Marcus, Craig, like man, you look at them dudes, like what do they do? So I try to set the same standard. Like nobody's bigger or lower than the standard. Everybody got to stay at the same standard. And yeah, it's DBU, so the scheme is hard too. Like you actually got to learn the scheme. You got to know football to be in that scheme. And once you learn that scheme, it's like, man, you grow as a person. That's what I would say.
When it comes to playing position, every corner, every defensive back has a different mentality. How do you like approaching playing the game as a cornerback, whether it be as a pass coverage guy or, like you talked about, playing the run?
Yes, sir. I'm like I like being physical, but like in my press, I'm a patient, so I like to mix it up sometimes. Sometimes you gotta get in. Some people like you gotta get in. Like if you give them be patient, they're gonna take off on you. So sometimes you gotta get hands on these dudes. And the most important part for my game, I like I said, being physical. Like you gotta be at run support. A lot of teams last year, especially at USF, they were just cracking the safety and just allowing me to tackle. I'm like, okay, I had like 48 tackles last year or something. I'm like, man, I'm gonna tackle them every time. Ain't nobody shying away from contact. Like that's so. I thought I got to my head to keep tackling. And it got fun, and now I look for that. Like, okay, it's a 12 personnel or a wing set. I know what time it is. I know they're coming over here. They're gonna try to do a little forward block. I'm gonna fit the C gap, and I showed them I could do that anytime. I have multiple blitzes.
Yeah, I feel like that's just like the personality of like the press man guys. Like, oh, you want to run at me? Oh, you want to do this? I'm gonna come at you either way. So I love that, man. And obviously you're here working with a lot of NFL personnel. Just how has that experience been?
Man, it's great. Just like seeing how they operate and seeing like what they look for in DBs and how smart they are. Like they know everything. Like so, till you're like 2 years old, they know all about that stuff. So it makes me want to they'll tell me what I need to work on, and now that's what I'm here to try. Like Shrine Bowl, I'm here to show them like about my weaknesses. They can turn into strengths as well.
As you head towards the next level, a question I love to ask someone like you is about mentorship and guys that you like to watch. So, as you head towards the professional level, who's a player that, whether it be past or present, that you would love to have as a mentor figure or someone that you could just add to your game from?
I like watching like Patrick Surtain. Like he's just he's really good. Derek Stingley, I always followed him through high school. JC Horn, those type of dudes, I feel like we play like the same type of grittiness, willing to tackle, patient. Yeah, I would say dudes like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say some dogs, man.
Dogs, for
Now,
sure.
when you're not playing football, like, what do you like to do? What are your hobbies?
I like watching like superhero movies. I'm like Star Wars. I love Star Wars, man. Like, I like doing all that stuff. Anything that has like a lore behind it, I can get behind it. Like playing God of War. I like just FaceTime my people. Like being around people and my loved ones. I'm a family guy, friendly guy. Like walk outside, be in nature, do a couple hikes here and there. To drive around, just drive around. Just being outside, or like I said, just Marvel, DC, I said God of War, Spider-Man, Thor.
I am a gigantic superhero fan.
Yeah.
I'm very happy you asked. A question that, I feel like not a lot of people can answer, but I feel like it's a very fun one. What superhero do you feel that you embody the most?
I'll say like Spider-Man, man. I like being that goofy, that fun, but when it's time to it's time to go. It's time to go. I'll say Spider-Man. Spider-Man cool too. Like everybody want to be like Spider-Man.
Before I get you out of here, brother, let everybody know where they can find you out on your social media.
On Instagram, DB Prodigy. On Twitter, Brent Austin 23. And those are the main things I use.
Shout out to Brent Austin. He's now with the Denver Broncos. He was picked up as an undrafted free agent. Fantastic kid. I love seeing in that interview too. He's kind of he a little jittery, nervous for a lot of guys. That those are some of their first interviews, sit down interviews that they've had in their football career. So it was kind of cool seeing him being, the nerves kind of start to relax a little bit as that interview went on. Fantastic kid, really rooting for the best of him. Cal, when they had Justin Wilcox, DBU, I mean, honestly, a lot of great guys, Noel, Craig Woodson that we talked about there. And there's just so many, Hezekiah Masses as well. Really fantastic DB in his own right too. So shout out to what Justin Wilcox was able to do there when he had the time there, especially on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of great linebackers too. Teddy Buchanan that we've talked to before, Kedu Luave, fantastic as well. Even Luke Ferrelli, who we're actually going to be highlighting pretty soon in today's episode. Now that they have Lapoy there, going to be very fascinating to see how the Cal Golden Bears change going forward. With that being said, it's time for our eye opener of the week. So hope you guys enjoy it.
It's pretty good. Let me write that down.
Now, if you guys are new to the show, the eye opener of the week will either highlight a player or a university or that's really been catching my eye lately. And this player, he actually made my 2025 all-freshman team list at the tight end position. And not many people are going to know about him, but I'm going to share the page too so people can kind of get, a cursory look of him, as I break it down. And that's going to be tight end Grant Hollier out of Georgia State. He went to high school at River Edge. He's now a sophomore, but he's 6'2", 230 pounds. And we're just going to talk about, we're going to highlight, all the honors that he was able to accrue in his freshman season. So last year, he was all Sun Belt fourth team offense. This year, he was at the honor roll, which is fantastic for him. We love seeing a guy that's able to take his education seriously while he's getting the ride he's getting, through sports. Tight end, like I said, he was at a River Ridge High School. He was a 4-year letter winner with 115 career receptions, 2,078 yards, and 26 touchdowns. His senior season, he really blew up, 52 catches, 975 yards with 16 touchdowns. And the year prior, he went 686 on 33 touches with 9 touchdowns. But what impressed me was his work as a freshman in college, to be honest with you. Saw 12 games, all true freshmen. He played all, that's pretty rare nowadays. You don't see too many true freshmen anymore. He totaled 288 yards. Doesn't sound like a lot, I know. 21 receptions and 4 touchdowns. His season long 52-yarder in the home opener. First touchdown was against App State. He had a 58-yard game against Coastal and had a 6-reception game against Marshall, which Marshall had a good team last year. But what impresses me, honestly, about a guy like Hollier is the yardage doesn't stick out, but when you look at how poor the Georgia State offense was as a whole last year, you really start to see how impressive that really was. And I'm going to bring that up in a second as well, so we can kind of see everything that was going on with them from an individual standpoint. We'll take a look at the receiving, because they only, outside of Hollier, they had one guy, and that guy is now in the NFL, in Ted Hurst. And so we're going to bring that up in 1 second. I can move 1 second. I apologize for anybody watching on the audio only. I'll make sure to try to talk through everything as best as I can. So this is from last year's games, right? 15 receptions, 237 yards. I don't know how their stats are different than the stats that they have on the page now. But for more or less, I guess, I don't think they've updated this. This kind of shows that. Ted Hurst was kind of the main guy, and then they had Javon Robinson was kind of behind him. But then you had Hollier at number 3. The tight end was taking up a lot of time, and he's averaging more yards after catching anybody, right? He's at 15.8. The second highest was a guy who only caught 3 passes, a pass, and then you have Ted Hurst, who had 14.6 or 14.26 rather. And his average a game isn't crazy, but he's back for another year. He's going to be a very useful tool for Georgia State, a team that has been struggling, a guy that, this is the other thing too, I can almost guarantee you that this kid was getting offers elsewhere, and he managed to stay and stick around with the team. So I'm going to share this tab now too. We're going to look at his PFF grades and everything like that, so you guys can kind of see a little bit more of why I'm a fan of him, especially on the offensive side. As a receiver is where I'm really impressed with him more than anything, right? So he's targeted 33 times, 21 receptions, 288 yards, averaging 13.7 yards per reception, and he's got 4 touchdowns. The offensive grades, not looking fantastic, right? A lot of that is because of his, the receiving grades down. I think he had a drop or 2, if I'm not mistaken, 4 drops, which isn't, drops aren't correlative. Like, that's not going to bother him going forward. But what I do keep an eye at is the slot usage percentage for a tight end, and he's at basically 46. He actually lines more in the slot than he did in line. So last year in the slot, he was at 46.1% in the slot. In line, he was at 44.4%. And he also does a little bit outside too, nearly 10% outside at 9.5. Without Ted Hurst, you're going to expect a guy like Hollier to really blow up in 2026, because they don't really have that many players that on the offensive side of the ball who are going to perform well. And we're going to actually, I'm going to bring up the depth chart here in a little bit too, because they have a bunch of new players at their position groups and on the offense. But even more so, we can just kind of see that he's slowly, just look at the first few games, right? He didn't really do much for the first, 5 games? Ole Miss, Memphis, Murray State, Vandy, James Madison. Wasn't really involved snap wise, right? That's just him being a true freshman. They probably kind of wanted to take a little bit slow on him, kind of see how things were. The red shirt's basically gone at that point. He did have a catch versus Memphis, for 52 yards. For not too shabby, right? For a tight end, a true freshman, had his best receiving grade of the game in that game. Obviously, the one reception he did have. And funny enough, he actually did that in line. So that's something to notice, that he can catch and be receiver in line too. The blocking we want to see more from, because his run blocking, I believe, is not great right now, which is fine. He's a tight end. He's going to have to work on that. Pass blocking, not terrible though. It's a lot of chip release stuff. A lot of when he is staying in line, not running a route, he is getting his blocking done well, how he should be. But then from week 7 to week 14, which would be how many games is that? I think that's 7 games. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is primarily where he gets most of his snaps from, right? He doesn't really go under 25 snaps per game outside of the Coastal and Dominion game, which that could have been game script related, and he wasn't even a full-time starter. He was still, role player. The P he is not starting. So he started the App State game, Georgia Southern, came in a little bit later for the next 2 games against South Alabama and Coastal, started again against Memphis, and then started to end the year against Dominion. And in these games, he performed, admirably too. Only one game under 25 receiving yards, and on most of the games where he only had about 20 receiving yards, he also scored. The App State game, he had a touchdown. The South Alabama game, he had a touchdown. The only one he didn't when he had he had Georgia Southern with 20 yards, and then Old Dominion with 15 at the end, which I'm not, too sad about. Georgia Southern, good program. They kind of struggled last year. ODU was fantastic last year. So I'm not upset about that. But the route percentage and everything too is what I want to keep an eye on here when it comes to Ole, and why I'm a fan of him going forward specifically. Against that Georgia Southern game, almost 2/3 of the game he was in the slot, which is for a tight end is insane. They know how they're going to be utilizing him. He's going to be a receiving threat. He's going to play the big slot role, Mike Gesicki-esque, as the kind of the original big slot guy at tight end. Hollier, it kind of honestly reminds me a lot of that. I think has a lot of potential too, because he has the ability to line up out wide. As you can see, nearly 10% out wide for a tight end is pretty good numbers. Even the slot percentage, where he's nearly 50% in the slot, that's pretty good. That's what you want to see out of a receiving tight end. Anything more than 35 is extremely, promising in terms of what he's going to be able to do. But that doesn't stop him from being in line too, where he's nearly 45% in line. And that's also important because it means that when it's just a run play or they have to fake the run, they're not going to hesitate putting him in the game, which is massive because even if he struggles a little bit as a blocker, it shows that the program has enough faith in him that he's going to be the guy that they're going to rely heavily upon in their offensive scheme. And I think 2026 is where we see him truly just break out of a shell. I think we're going to see him do fantastic things. And there's another reason why I believe that too. And give me 1 second because I'm about to pull up their numbers here for the depth chart. And this is another reason why I think so. So now we have the Our Lads 2026 depth chart here. I'm going to try to go full screen because it might be a little hard for you guys to see if you're watching on the video version. If you're watching the audio only version, I'm still going to go through the names and everything so that you guys can know. But they get Cam Brown. He returns quarterback. That's a good thing for them. Derek Avery Jr. and Kyle Washington are the two returning offensive players. They're both in their sophomore year. They didn't really do much with Georgia State last year. That's important because it allows, it's comfortability, right? Grant played last year. He saw meaningful snaps last year, and he's going to essentially get a lot of opportunity to showcase why he can be the guy within the Panthers offense. It's something that is going to be massive and not just his draft potential, but if you're a college fantasy football player, it's something you really want to pay attention to and you're getting excited about seeing is because a guy with his size, a little bit smaller for tight end, 6'2", 230. He's a big guy, but he's quick, he's athletic, and he's strong, which I think is very important. The other wide receiver that they have in there too is Chase Allen Jackman. Chase Allen Jackman, he played at Washburn for 3 years. Washburn, very small school. His last season, he played and started in 8 games. 31 receptions for 467 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's more of a burner. We're talking about Chase Allen Jackman here. He's more of a burner guy. He's a track guy. He's somebody that they're expecting to kind of take the top off the defense, at least in this offense. And it's an offense that struggled. So you want to keep that in mind, right? So he's penciled in right now as the starting Z. And then behind them, a couple more transfers in Rashawn Dorsey and Owen Dupree for the 2 outside receivers. They do have DJ Riles, who's been there for a bit in the slot as their backup in the slot. Isaiah Stone, the 3rd string in the transfer. But running back position is going to be completely new. Keith Adams, Savion Hart, who I'm a fan of, Jalen Pohl. Their running backs, all 3 of them are new, projected in the depth chart. They come through in the transfer portal. So really the only consistency, and if you looked back and paid attention to when we brought up the cumulative stats, and I apologize for the audio only guys who may not be able to see this, but Derek Avery Jr. and Kyle Washington were not heavily involved in the offense last year for the Panthers. That's going to be massive, like I said again, for somebody like Grant Hollier, who put up 288, but was third highest on the team and one of the most reliable options, especially in the red zone for the Georgia State Panthers offense, which did struggle, quite a bit at times. And we'll pencil back over to Grant's numbers here in PFF, which surprisingly, I know people have had issues, but mine's been working fine, which I'm fine with. But the other thing we want to notice here is his route percentage, right? And that's at 89.6, right? And just see that on there so you guys can see. Bring that percentage of snaps. Receiving percentage is 89.6 as a receiver. That's what we want to see. Like that for a tight end is fantastic. That means he's going to get numerous and plentiful opportunities within the offense. And an offense to where in the Sun Belt, a lot of changes happening. We're seeing, ODU has a lot of guys who ended up leaving the program, but just being in a non-autonomy program in the G6, you're going to see a lot of turnover anyway. But, James Madison, another program, lost a head coach, lost a quarterback, completely brand new. I know that, they have new head coach, great head coach, who came in from Florida. But, Georgia Southern didn't necessarily perform above expectations this past season, and they lost Cam Brown, who was fantastic for them. Who knows how they're able to put things together. ODU, we just mentioned, not necessarily fantastic. Coastal Carolina has a brand new head coach and a new scheme coming in. Marshall lost, a lot of play. There's a lot that's going on within the Sun Belt Conference. Georgia State has an opportunity to really surprise and be able to. I'm not going to say they're going to be conference contenders because, you can't really go from the basement to that quickly. But I think they're going to be competitive enough, especially on offense, if they're able to be creative using Grant. I think they have the opportunity for him to be not just for him to be a stud, but for the offense to really take a step forward. This was an offense that was one of the worst in the country, one of the worst in the Sun Belt. Defensively, kind of the same thing, which kind of put the team in a hole at times. But now with him being the primary receiving option, I think they can get very creative and do what they want to do. They brought on a lot of guys over that they want to help fit the scheme. It's just a matter of if they're able to get it right. And I'm going to take a brief peek at what their schedule looks like to see if it's doable, right? Because we want to be able to see if we can put if we're putting pen to paper that this is actually a realistic opportunity for them. So I know this is, bring this up here. And I'm going to go full screen on that so you guys can see that. If you're listening audio only, we're going to go through. So the first game, NC A&T, that's a game Georgia State should win. Right off the rip, 1-0. Kennesaw State the week after that. They get 8 days to prepare for it. It's a night game, but Kennesaw State is coming off of, very impressive performance. Got to consider that a loss, 1-1. USF the next week. I don't think Georgia State can win that one, unfortunately. P4 program, they're 1-2. Northern Illinois is possible, right? Northern Illinois is an interesting team where it can be up and it can be down. Considering Georgia State's at home and Northern Illinois has to travel, try to give them the benefit of the doubt there. So we'll have them win that game in a tight one, 2-2. Old Dominion comes to town the following week. I believe that's a loss, so they'll go 2-3. James Madison, they get 2 weeks to prepare for James Madison. Is that enough time with how different JMU is going to look? Middle-ish of the season. Are the Dukes going to be able to get things humming by then? That'll be fascinating to see. Right now, I would probably have to say, especially at home for JMU, that crowd is always a sellout. Fantastic crowd, by the way. One of my best college football memories is going to a James Madison football game at their home stadium. Fantastic. I have Georgia State losing that, so that'd be 2-4. They face Arkansas State the following week. kind of a toss-up game for me. Arkansas State hasn't been necessarily terrible. So I'll say that Georgia State sneaks one out there, but this could very well be a loss. But for intents and purposes, we'll say they end up getting a win there, go 3-4, because I do have them losing the next 2 games to Coastal and App State. So that'd be 3-6. And they might not get a bowl game here, but they'd be better than last year. They host Georgia Southern in that big rivalry matchup in the Sun Belt. Depending on where Georgia Southern is, because they did struggle last year quite a bit, numerous times, I think there's an opportunity for State to really pull out a surprising victory there. So for all intents and purposes, let's just say they do now. And I know my buddy Cade, who writes for us and covers Southern, might not like that, but we'll have them win. They're going to win one of these final 3 games. So I have them winning 4 games. As opposed to what they won last year, which I believe actually I'm gonna have to check now because I think they only won about 3 games last year, which would be an improvement. Whether or not that's enough to get some of these guys to stay and stick around remains to be. Actually, they won 1 game last year. Oh my Lord. So 4 games would be a heavy improvement. They were 0-8 in the conference too. I think I have them going 2-6 in this. The Arkansas State, they finished 7-6 last year. So there's a possibility that they can win more. And they should win more. Like, if you're a bottom of the barrel team and you don't have any type of improvement the following year, it's not going to bode well. Just period, right? And yes, they did lose Ted Hurst, who I believe is a fantastic player. But you do have opportunities there, right? That's why you brought all these other players in. That's why you were able to retain Grant Hollier, which like I said at the beginning of this eye-opener segment, he had opportunity to leave. There's no question about that. When you have a freshman getting the ability to perform the way he did in limited opportunities and just being a touchdown magnet, you get opportunity. And with this offense, I think they have to focus it around him. They brought in the 3 new running backs. I think they're going to play a good role in boosting this run game too. And it's just a matter of time before they find their footing a little bit. The schedule isn't necessarily hard for them to be able to make some headway within the conference. And to do that is going to be able to take advantage of some of these teams that are going through massive amount of changes. Like we mentioned, the Coastal Carolinas with the head coaching changes, JMU, ODU, Marshall's dealing with a lot, deals with a lot of players leaving and being able to having to recoup those losses. Southern hasn't been necessarily the staple of consistency after 2024 when they had a fantastic season, along the top of the Sun Belt. They barely finished bowl eligible and then got into the bowl game and they won that bowl game, but they barely got there this past year. And in terms of who State has to play this year for their conference opponents, not necessarily that hard. I believe the other team was Louisiana, which is another team 6-7 last year. So like Arkansas State, kind of middling of the pack in terms of bowl eligibility. Those can be up for grabs. App State, another one. While I did have them losing to Marshall, App State, those could easily turn into wins too. App State and Marshall both only had 5 wins last year. So there's opportunity for those to be taken advantage of. Those are 50-50 games that they have to have. And I believe, not to beat it a horse, but with a guy who has the potential like Grant Hollier, 6'2", 230, big, strong kid, explosive kid, understands where to get into in his zones. He just knows what he's doing with the football too. And as he continues to grow as a player, I think it's going to be very important for a team like Georgia State to kind of be able to focus on getting him the football, developing him, and having the offense have a focal point for which they can continue to build upon in the future. I think that's going to be very important. But with that said, that is who our eye-opener of the week is. And I do want to give a shout-out to Grant. I'm going to actually have his Twitter on there so you guys can follow it. I'm going to put up his Twitter right now so you guys can follow that because I am a fan, massive fan of him. And you guys can see him at Grant Grant Hollier, Hollier 10 on X/Twitter. He's a guy who needs to get much more. I mean, he's fantastic. He really is. And he made my all freshman team for a reason. There's other guys who could have made the list, but I think with the amount of growth that he has and the potential that he has, he's a guy that I'm very much looking forward to seeing him develop. And he's going to be an NFL guy. I'll put that down right now. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's segment of the Eye Opener of the Week featuring Grant Hollier from Georgia State University.
That's pretty good. Let me write that down.
So that was our eye-opener segment of the week. Now we have probably one of my and a couple other people's favorite segments. That is the Film Room Flash. But before we get there, if you're watching this video, please make sure to click that like button. It's completely free to do so. I appreciate everybody who's been checking out the show. I appreciate the comments too. Thank you, Matthew, for the like on Facebook. Appreciate you guys. If you're watching on X/Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, click that like button. You can comment as well. It is a live show. Make sure to get to every comment. And when you comment after the show ends, give me about 24, 48 hours, and I'll get back to you. And that goes for my DMs as well, which you can find me at TommyCFB on X/Twitter or on Instagram. And if you are not watching this show on any of those, you guys can always find and check out this show or last episodes or the latest episodes on our Spotify. On Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Amazon. Anywhere you can find your favorite shows and podcasts. With that being said, this week's segment of the Film Room Flash, we're going to be focusing on Ole Miss Rebels linebacker Luke Ferrelli, formerly of Cal. We talked about that a little bit. He was technically a little bit with the Clemson Tigers before Coach Golding came around and kind of meddled a little bit with some tampering stuff. But that doesn't matter to me in terms of Luke, because Luke's a great kid. His dad's fantastic too. His brother is also fantastic. His brother plays at the FCS level. Big fan of him as well. Also a linebacker. But that being said, let's dive into our Film Room Flash. I love that. So if you guys are new to this show, the Film Room Flash highlights a player or a few plays of a player from somebody that I really am a fan of and want to see more of. Before we get into it, though, I don't look at this film before I do it. So when I break it down, I'm breaking it down as I see it with you as you see it. That way I feel like it's more organic. That way we can both kind of either be impressed or disappointed in the same instance. And hey, man, if you know ball, you don't, I mean, unless you see me with a whiteboard, we're gonna have to do all this other stuff, which I mean, I would love to do that at some point. There's no point in pretending that I'm, the smartest guy in the room. We're just going to go through it together. So with that being said, I'm going to turn this volume down. This is one of my favorite plays, honestly, because we had somebody at this game recording this play. We have live shots of it. You can find that on our Instagram channel, and I believe it might be on Twitter or X as well. And that's going to be this play right here, the game-sealing interception by Luke Ferrelli against Boston College. And this, I believe, was in like week 4, week 5, early in the season. We did have somebody there, had a photographer there for that. I'm going to bring this wide screen so you guys can see. Now, as you're going to be able to see here, Cal kind of running a base package here, 4 down men, 2 linebackers, and then, a bunch of defensive backs. They have the nickel here, outside corner, and then they have 2 safeties. Luke Ferrelli is going to be the linebacker on the left. If you're watching this, he's the more northern linebacker. He's going to be playing on the weak side of the formation and closer to the middle hash. They have Keita Luave alongside him. He is past the right hash. And this play, 4th quarter, 2nd and goal, 20 seconds left in the game. Boston College driving for what looked to be a comeback victory and a stunning upset. Instead, it is sealed by Cal because of Luke Ferrelli. We're going to play this. I'm going to go quick, just so you guys can see. It's the quick play. What a play. That kid's such a stud, man. I've seen that before he gets that because I don't know what that is. Somebody else's video. Reaction video, rather. This is obviously on ACC Network on ESPN. We're going to break this down a little bit. So, like I said, it's a base coverage concept 4-2, 4-2-5. And I believe it's just zone coverage, man. It's just simple, simple 2-zone. And I think he gets the quarterback thinking that he's going to take this guy right here. I believe that is the tight end. Yeah, it is the tight end. He's running a crossing pattern with the outside receiver. Right now, Longren, Dylan. I forget how to pronounce his last name, but first name Dylan, Boston College's quarterback. He assumes, because Luke does a good job here, that he's just going to be completely following the tight end here. The underneath guy's open. I mean, open enough, right? Cato Luave's there, so he doesn't want to take the throw risk. But if you're going to throw this ball, I'd rather take that there, especially second and goal. Get 2 yards, get 3 yards. Instead, he tries to attack the other receiver. I believe it's a tight end, but he's the most outside guy, right? So we got the crossing route. More delayed crossing route, more of a slant route there. And Ferrelli does a good job of just drifting, seeing the quarterback's eyes, realizing that he is going to be in this zone here, in his zone, because Cade is going to be taking the crossing receiver who came from the right side of the formation, crossing left. Cade is going to be taking him. But Cade sees it too. Cade sees it. He's just a little late. Luke is right there in position. And just how quick Luke is. Look how quick Luke is, man. This is in half speed. Look how quick that ball gets out. That's insane. That's like maybe 1 second. Luke jumps it, and then they seal the game. They get the victory there. Massive, massive, massive play by Luke Ferrelli there. And let's see. There's a few plays that I wanted to highlight. I was briefly skimming. This is one of these other ones that I wanted to see too. Now we aren't able to really see what the formation is on the defensive side of the football here, just because as you guys can see, once this is broken down, what we are able to use, rather, the plays are already starting, but we can just kind of guesstimate just based on Cal's defense. They're running another 4-2-5 zone coverage. Looks like it's cover 3. It's typically what Wilcox likes to run. Robber-esque concept with the safety kind of jumping down here. But Luke Ferrelli, just keep an eye on Luke Ferrelli, because this is going to be insane. And is this on full speed? Okay, so I want to play it full speed first. Luke Ferrelli is on the middle of the screen around the 40-yard line on his side of the ball. They're playing Duke. Duke is driving. This is 3rd down, by the way. 3rd and 5. Darian Mensah with the football. I'll play the volume on this one just a little bit lower so you guys can hear.
Mensah rolling right. Still rolling, and he'll take the sack, and a huge loss.
It's massive sack. I'll take the volume off there so we don't get in trouble. Just a big sack. All right. And the reason why this is impressive, because I briefly saw this one, is just Luke's ability to just go and move. His decision making, as soon as he makes a decision, he's there in an instant. Right? So initially, he's in coverage. Luke is in coverage, in his zone coverage. And he just, once he sees Mensah drifting, he's like, well, I'm taking this opportunity. And not only that, he knows the coverage he has behind him. He knows the route concepts that are being run as well. He knows that his guys are going to be covered. Crosshair concept, he knows that the safety is there to get him. I believe that's the slot running past him. I mean, it's a Wilcox defense. I believe the top cornerback and the other safety have that covered as well, and as well as the other receiver. They're both running similar concepts. They're accounted for in the back end. If not, it opens a one-on-one opportunity regardless, to where Luke knows that decision-making has to be made now. And with nobody really entering his zone, this is the closest guy who's also covered there. Luke just takes off like a bullet, takes off like a piss missile, man, and just goes. He covers that in insane time. Is that 20-ish yards? 20 yards in a heartbeat. let me check full speed what that is, if we can. Yeah, and he's dodging traffic on the way, and that's about 2 seconds there. Good split, pretty good split. But what's impressive is just as soon as he makes the decision, he makes the decision to go incredibly early in the read, by the way. As soon as the slot receiver or tight end, can't tell because, we couldn't see what the formation was prior to the play. We couldn't see the pre-snap here. He goes. He knows where his defense is. He knows who's covered. He knows who's covered. Like I said, the deeper crosser on the left side crossing over, he's covered. He's accounted for. The two deeper routes on the right side of the field, they're getting accounted for. So the only guy who is not accounted for here is, I believe it's either looks like the tight end. If not, it's a crossing receiver. And he's going to actually be accounted for by this defensive player here on the right side of the hash. So he gets him in front of him. As soon as Luke knows that, he's instantly running. Darian Mensah doesn't even notice Luke running until Luke's already about 5 yards in. Luke chooses to take off here. Mensah does not realize until about here. So already Luke has the 5-yard edge. Nobody's open downfield, and not enough to where he can plant. Big sack on a third down. That's what you want to see out of a player like Luke Ferrelli. By the way, he's a freshman doing this. So impressive, to say the least. And there's his numbers there in the stat ticker there. 91 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, an interception, and a sack. Just big boy stuff. Just absolute big boy stuff there from Luke Ferrelli. It's so impressive that you're kind of like, okay, what more can this guy do? And we're going to see real quick, because he does another great play here. I believe this is against UNC. I don't know the down and distance. We're going to go full screen here so you guys can see. Don't know the down and distance on this one, but similar thing, man. 4 down men. You got the nickel. 2 linebackers are running 4-2-5. They do have the one edge actually standing up, though, which they don't do as often. And off the rip, this is impressive. This is just impressive. This is a man coverage, more of a man coverage concept, but you don't necessarily see too much out of Wilcox there. They know that the high safety, the robber concept, obviously, the safety in the box there. Trying to get the inside the inside slant from the left outside receiver. So UNC on this play obviously isn't a single back. As you can see, nobody with him. They have the tight end here, 2 wide receivers there, and they have. I'm sorry, that's a pistol. I apologize. The running back isn't in view, and everybody's accounted for. Man coverage on the outside. They do a good job switching here. Luke has to take one man, and that is he doesn't even take the tight end. I mean, either Luke was supposed to get the tight end, right, or he just is supposed to play the run, because look how quickly this man diagnoses his play, to where if you understand the concept, right, these two are basically covering these guys. I think they make a switch. I think they do switch. No, they don't switch. It's just the angle that they're at. So, outside corner, obviously taking his man, bottom corner taking his man. The nickel is taking the slot. So you would assume, based on the formation, that Luke has the tight end right here. Right? And the tight end is going to be pulling for the block. Luke notices that this is a run play almost immediately. Like right here, he notices already. He's already pushing upfield. He's at the angle a half second before. He's pushing upfield now. Blows by the block and just smollywops the running back. Running back's down, by the way. Like, he got hurt. Or like he felt that. Luke's a big boy, man. We're going to go slow-mo now, a little bit slower, so you guys can see. Like I said, we're going to break it down one more time. A little 4-2-5 out of them. They're UNC's in a pistol. Going to be running to the strong side of the formation. Tight end on the right side, slot, and outside receiver. It looks like they're playing a man concept. Cal is. They got single high safety here. They have a safety in the box right here, and the nickel is taking the slot. The outside corner is taking the outside receiver. You would assume that Ferrelli is taking the tight end or responsible for that area. Otherwise, if it's a run, instantly knows it's a run play from here just based on the wide receiver. This is why Luke is fantastic, by the way. I know it's a little grainy, a little blurry, but Luke understands already that this is a run play because these receivers aren't running routes. They give it away. Right? From here, they basically give it away. He gives it away. He kind of gives it away because he's just looking for Luke. Luke sees this right now. Right now, Luke sees this. And that's where he decides, oh, I'm running. And boom, perfect angle. He's so quick, man. The thing about Luke Ferrelli is his closing speed is actually insane. Like, there's a reason he's in the SEC now. Like, this kid is a stud. And you're going to see it on the full screen on the All-22 page too. There's, this Oluwave. Cade's even slow to that. Not Luke. And Cade's a great linebacker. Luke just, oh my Lord. How do you not come away impressed with that? That's just fantastic ball skill. That's just, his IQ is insane for a freshman. Like, that's the thing. It'd still be impressive if he was a senior or a junior. He did this as a freshman, man. You can't scoff at that. Like, no matter how you feel about the stuff that happened with him in Clemson, you can't scoff at what he's been able to do. Now, I want to see if they have any other highlights on here, because I know these are some Luke Ferrelli highlights. I just want to see if they have anything that we can, actually utilize in this film breakdown, other than just quick little headers here. I want to see some pre-snap stuff if we're going to get any. Okay, this could be it. Yeah, let's do this one. So this is going to be against Minnesota. Again, kind of the Cal's base, that 4-2-5, 4-3-ish kind of setup they have there. This time they have the two edges on their feet, a little surprising. Outside, Minnesota is in an I formation. Tight end on the left side of the formation, single back set. Top corner at the top of the screen for Cal is in a man coverage press. Bottom of the screen also at the line of scrimmage, but they're in motion. They're actually running a more of a zone concept. I didn't know it's a run. Oh my gosh, that was filthy. By the way, Luke Ferrelli is just an animal. Oh my God. Okay, this is insane. He just splits the block like it's nothing here. Just keep an eye on Luke Ferrelli right here, middle linebacker. And just look at him go. They're running formation. I believe that's Brent Austin, going back. And just whoop, splits that. Doesn't even get touched. Running back has no idea what to do. There's no idea. Oh my gosh, that is beautiful. You won't find a better split than that, man. Honestly, how do you get that skinny? For a guy that big, getting that skinny is so impressive. Holy smokes. Let me go full screen, sorry. You guys got to see this full screen. I'm putting that back. Just look at the way he splits this, man. Luke Ferrelli in the middle right here. Look at the way he splits this. And they're trying to push this in. You're going to see, I believe was that this left guard. Yeah, it is the left guard. You're going to see the left guard right here next to center. You're going to see him try to squeeze to the right. You're going to keep an eye on him. He's trying to squeeze, doesn't get him. Luke splits it. Big TFL on third down forced a punt, massive play, massive play. This was against, an undefeated Minnesota team, 2-0. Massive play. Like, how do you not get impressed by that? This is a perfect angle. I love this. This is going to be perfect. Just look at the way he gets skinny. Boop, he sees that hole. Oh my gosh. He just attacks the gap immediately. And we saw this play. We don't want to highlight this one again. We've seen it already. And we've seen this one. I don't think they have too much on Ferrelli, which is probably good for Ole Miss. We'll try to see this one a little bit here. This is going to be a little bit more difficult, though, against Louisville. Ferrelli, again, just another great play and coverage. Look at this closeout speed, too. Look at the chalkboard behind him. Instantly in his zone. Look how quick he gets to his zone, though. Guy's just so freaking fast, man. Sees the crowd. Wow. This is just good tape, man. This is just good. His closeout speed's fantastic. He's just got an extra gear to him that you just don't see too often from a freshman. Like, that's the craziest thing, is that Luke was a freshman doing this stuff. I'm a massive fan of that. I want to see this one here. Texas Southern.
Down in the Mesa at San Diego. Here in California.
See if we got that. I want to turn that off there. I apologize. And this is the same. Is this the same tape? I think this is the same tape. Oh, we get this angle, though. Okay, this is what I wanted to see. Now we're going to get this angle of this play against Duke and Mensa. I wanted to see this, too. Because now we get to know for a fact if his instincts are correct. Yeah. Oh, I apologize. I just want to check this real quick. Okay. Yeah, and then the other cornerback would have been there to take that. Wow, that's just great play. No, that's just great play recognition and just IQ by Ferrelli, man. That's insane. That's so impressive for a freshman. And then we saw this UNC play. Yeah, that's insane. I love that for Luke, to be honest with you. That's absolutely awesome. You don't see that too often from a freshman linebacker, man. It just shows, like, for as many deficiencies as Justin Wilcox had as like a head coach, that dude was probably one of the best he's one of the best defensive minds in college football, without a doubt. It's just beyond impressive to see that. I just don't know how you don't come away impressed with that. Personally, as a freshman, and now it makes sense why Ole Miss wanted to give him Tampa, give him $2 million to play for them, right? So I'm just a massive fan of that. With that being said, getting towards kind of the end of today's show, like I said, today's episode was going to be a little bit shorter than the past episodes, just because I'm still not in the studio. I didn't want to be able to, especially for the video viewers, there's some lighting issues and things of that nature. Didn't want to have it interfere with that. Plus, I might have to make it back to my actual house too for some other AC issues. I'm basically on call right now, so I apologize. The show's going to be running a little bit shorter than the others, but still hit that hour and a half mark. And that's primarily because, like I said, this is the last episode where we're going to be highlighting players that were either taken in the NFL draft or, found their way to the NFL or making that journey. We just did Brent Austin, who's UDFA now for the Denver Broncos. And the one that end this today's episode, we're actually going to be doing Hank Beatty. He's an Illinois wide receiver who signed with the Tennessee Titans. We actually got to talk to Hank at the Hula Bowl. Very great, down-to-earth kid. I appreciate him taking the time out to speak with us as well. So with that being said, we're going to end the episode with the conversation that we had with Hank Beatty. I hope you guys appreciate that and enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed it.
All right, Hank Beatty, University of Illinois, play receiver.
Now, everybody has their story, man, of how they got into football. Obviously, you have to be pretty successful to get to where you are now, but what made you decide, like, hey, football is something that I want to pursue, not just as a hobby or a game, but as a career?
Yeah, I would say maybe my junior year of college, I was kind of faced with a decision. Like, I wasn't really getting a ton of playing time, and I was potentially thinking about transferring out of Illinois. I had a conversation with Coach B, and he kind of talked to me a little bit, said he was going to get me more involved in special teams and the offense. And as a competitor, I felt like, man, I just want to go with my gut, stick it out here, and try and work myself into a position. Because if I feel like if I'm transferring, I'm kind of just giving up. So that was kind of really when I decided that, man, this is what I want to do. Like, if I'm going to do it, then I'm going to do it. Like, I'm not going to back out, can't give up, and I'm going to work hard here.
I mean, you've contributed in literally every single way you can as an offensive player and a special teams player, between being a returner, between being an offensive weapon. Kind of speak to your mentality of how you get yourself ready to contribute in every single way, because throughout your time at Illinois, you've done legitimately almost anything that an offensive player can do.
Yeah, so I mean, punt return was kind of where I started. It was really the first opportunity that I got. So I kind of just took that and ran with it. If I was going to be able to have the ball in my hands at all, I was just going to be aggressive and confident with it. And that kind of just carried over into other things that I was kind of put in a position for on offense, just kind of being moved around, special plays, anything I could. Like, if I was going to have the ball in my hands, I felt like I had to do something positive with it, and I was going to try and make sure that nothing I did was bad or a negative play.
And kind of building off that too, do you have like a different mentality as opposed to when you are returning as opposed to when you are receiving the ball on offense?
I guess maybe a little bit, because I feel like when you're punt returning, you kind of have to have like just like an unwavering confidence back there. Like, you can't be thinking anything negative. Like, not that you're thinking things negatively when you're playing receiver, but you just have to be so locked in to just being like, man, I'm going to go back here, catch this ball, and return it.
Speaking of playing receiver, you've already shown it this week, but you seem to have a very nuanced and high-level feel with route running, no matter whether it's deep down the field or in the short area. Kind of talk about how you developed that side of your game from the time you arrived in college to now, where you're showing it off in front of pro scouts.
Yeah, I would say it was a lot of trial and error. Coming from high school to college, there's just a skill jump of athleticism and all that. And I kind of played a little bit of quarterback in high school, so I was kind of raw in terms of receiver. So I had to really kind of figure out how to run routes, how to use my abilities that I have and not try and be something else that I'm not. So just watching a lot of film and learning from guys in front of me. We had a really good slot ahead of me, Isaiah Williams, who I learned a ton from, on the field, off the field, just kind of how to prepare myself and the mentality that he had, kind of tried to apply that to my life. And then I kind of just worked on it, year after year on the field, drills, watching film, just trying to find new ways to run routes and kind of take that and put it into my own game.
That's kind of ties into what I want to ask you, because wide receiver is a position that really relies heavily on like leverage and being able to separate on your stem. Now that you're here working with NFL coaches and guys that are going to be taking that next step, what kind I don't know if I want to say advice, critique or advice have they been able to give you so far during this experience?
Yeah, Coach Ike is our receivers coach here, and he's a great coach. He's been, so helpful. And one of the players at Illinois played for him at the Falcons, Casey Washington. I sent him a text earlier today, and he was like, man, Coach Ike, he's that guy. That's kind of what I figured out my time here. But yeah, just kind of, seeing what he has to say when I'm running routes and stuff, if I'm attacking certain leverages or, releases when I'm trying to hand fight. There's a whole bunch of different things that he just sees the game differently than how I've been around it. So just trying to see it how he sees it.
Building upon that, what's your personal favorite route to run within any type of offensive scheme? And then tying into that with you being here at the Hula Bowl, what do you think is a route that you are getting better at that you're going to add to really maybe not top that favorite, but be very close to it?
I feel like one of my favorite routes to run has been a sail route. I don't know, something about it. I just like it, being able to come out, and let the quarterback just throw it to you, and you know, you can catch it over the shoulder, you can go up and get it. I just feel like that's such a fun route to run. Something that I've been working on that I do enjoy running, but definitely looking to improve on is just kind of a short option route. We ran a few of them today, and it was a good experience. And you know, those are something that a lot of NFL offenses use, so I'm definitely going to have to, you know, get that down.
Now it's kind of interesting because for quarterbacks, you know, working with a lot of different wide receivers, it's kind of normally in the wide receiver position, it's kind of the same, right? Because you got to do a lot of pregame stuff, working not just with the first team, but you help throw around with the second team and warm-ups and everything. So how has that affected you going into this, where you're working with multiple quarterbacks in a wide receiver room where it's a bunch of new guys, or how has that been for you?
Just in terms of like the connection with the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, the quarterbacks we hear are all great. You know, they can all throw the ball really well. That's why they're here. So just kind of getting a feel for how each guy throws. You know, reps are limited with guys, and you know, with the receivers too. So you know, different guys throw it differently. Some put a little more heat on it. Some, you know, might throw it to a certain spot. But yeah, just kind of getting a feel for that. Routes on air, 7-on-7 team. Just get a good feel for them.
Combined with that, you know, you're facing more NFL level defensive schemes too. How has it been combining and really building that rapport with your new quarterbacks as you're facing a bunch of new defensive backs that are running a bunch of new concepts?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's getting a lot thrown at them. And, you know, we got Coach Gruden here, so it's been awesome to just kind of see how his mind works and learn his offense, because, you know, it's just an amazing offense. But, yeah, I mean, you know, when you pick up something on the offense and as a receiver, when you're in the right spot at the right time, doing what the quarterback wants you to do, and where he's expecting you to be, and he throws it to you, man, that's just a great feeling. And that just kind of builds that trust and connection.
You mentioned Gruden. I've kind of asked a couple guys this. Has there been I don't want to call it like a Grudenism, but has there been something where he's like tried to catch you, like tried to trick you guys and make sure you guys are on your P's and Q's? There's been something specific that he said to you throughout this experience. How has that been?
I mean, I don't think he's done that too much. You know, he'll just fire off random questions while we're asking film. So he kind of keeps everybody on their toes a little bit, but I think that's a good thing.
You know, shifting to off the field, what is your favorite thing to do outside of football? How do you get your mind right? And what really allows you to, you know, a lot of guys so focused on football, but it's important having that balance. What helps you find that balance specifically?
Yeah, I would say really anything if I'm spending time with family and friends, just being able to relax and have conversations that aren't about football, just spending time with people, you know, outside of the football world, I would say. Just kind of gives my mind a break and allows me to, you know, just relax a little bit.
You know, a lot of guys either have like a superstition or a game day routine. What's yours?
Superstition. I don't know if I really have any superstitions, but game day routine, you know, that's something that I think plays a huge impact on how I perform. Just kind of your daily routine, really. There's certain things that I do, you know, get up, take a shower, stretch at a certain time, eat at a certain time. All things just to kind of get my body accustomed to like what the game day feels like.
And a question I always ask guys, especially as they're heading to the next level, you know, as you're approaching the professional level, who's a guy that you want to try to emulate at your position? And if not a specific player, are there some guys that you want to take specific skill sets or a specific thing they do and add it to your game as you head towards that professional level?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, growing up, I watched a lot of Danny Amendola, and obviously a lot of Julian Edelman. So those are two guys that, you know, I've tried to model my game after because they've been really successful. And I feel like I'm similar to those guys. And they do a lot of great things. But another guy that I watch that I'm not really like, that I like stealing things from, is Devontae Adams. I mean, he's just, you know, just such a great route runner. His release package is like nuts. So just being able to watch him and just kind of be like, oh, that's pretty cool. I think I'm going to try that. Something I like to do.
Yeah, there's a reason why he's had such longevity in the game, right?
Yeah.
Then before we let you out of here, man, let everybody know where they can find you out on your social media.
I think my Instagram is Beatty.3.
That was Hank Beatty. He is now an undrafted free agent signing of the Tennessee Titans, formerly of the Illinois Fighting Illini. Massive fan of Hank. Fantastic kid, very articulate kid, smart kid. Good route runner too. It's going to be great to seeing how he continues to grow as a football player as he begins his professional career. With that being said, this is just about the end of the show. I hope you guys liked it up to this point. Before we get out of here, though, make sure you click that like button. Completely free to do so, whether you're watching on X, Twitter, Facebook, or on YouTube. If you missed this show, I'll bring a quick little recap of what we talked about. We talked about the Protect College Sports Act, which precludes, the creation of a super league, creates agent registry, and it bars coaches from leaving their team before the season ends, a la the Lane Kiffin rule that was agreed upon by Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell. The government once again getting involved in college sports. Steve Sarkisian proposed a 4-team SEC mini playoff. Why not? Big 12 coaches favorite 2014 playoff. Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire and Cody Campbell have offered to pay the buyout for ACU and Texas State to play Texas in week 1. As you guys, like I said, if you missed this was the primary focus of today's episode, whether or not that should happen, the outcomes of that, the fallout of that, the implications of that. Greg Sankey confirmed Big Ten proposed a 16-team college football playoff. That was interesting. We had our eye-opener of the week in Grant Hollier from Georgia State. The tight end from Georgia State goes into now he's in his sophomore season with the Panthers. We had our film room flash featuring Ole Miss linebacker Luke Ferrelli. And then we had player interviews with now Denver Broncos cornerback Brent Austin, formerly of Cal, and USF. And we also had Hank Beatty, now with the Tennessee Titans, formerly of Illinois. With that being said, I'm Thomas Christopher, aka Mr. Gridiron, Tommy Football. You can follow me at Tommy CFB on X, Twitter, or Instagram. And with that, that about wraps up today's episode. A little bit shorter than normal, so I apologize on that. But we should be back to our regularly scheduled program this upcoming Monday. We're going to have some fantastic stuff. We may have a couple guests lined up as well, so stay tuned for that. And with that being said, I'm getting up on out of here. I appreciate everybody who's taking the time to watch the show, and I hope you enjoy it, and stay tuned for more.